starting with our mustard control, which is mustard.
So guys, it's been more than a year since I made my first favorite rappers is mid video, and new music has come out since then. No duh. And the landscape has changed a bit, so it's time to give an update. I'm gonna go through 5 or 6 different rappers who have released projects since my last video, and also go through the projects of the rappers I already talked about in the first video at the end. I don't want to waste too much of your time, but real quick, I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2025, so if you can subscribe, please do. I would really appreciate it. Please! Alright, let's roll. Your favorite rapper is Mid, Part 2.
He cold. She belongs to the streets.
Future was the first rapper I had to talk about today because when I was editing the first part of this video, he proceeded to drop We Don't Trust You. And then drops a follow-up, We Still Don't Trust You. Like, okay bro, I think we got it the first time. I'll get to those albums in a sec, but overall, he's got classic tracks, classic albums, classic stretches of peak, but also some of the most trash of trash. He's very hot and cold. Like for example, 2015, which feels like ages ago. Fuck it, someone might be born that year watching this video right now. He dropped 4 albums, and he hit on all 4 albums. He was on a heater. Then honestly, I wasn't crazy about any of his projects until High Off Life. He released a lot of good music in between that time, don't get me wrong. But at the end of the 2010s, he doesn't have one album that's good start to finish, and that's just my opinion. Purple Rain is a good example of this. I go back to this album a decent amount. His last 3 songs on this album are pretty good, including my favorite Future song of all time, News or Something. But the middle of that album is so forgettable. I could say that something similar with this album and this album as well, and a lot of his other albums except Hendrix. This album straight up wasn't for me. I didn't like how it was slow-paced and melodic. I'm not gonna say it's trash, cause you know, he was trying to do something different, and maybe people rock with that. Not me though. Last couple of years though, he's been cooking, dropping some really good albums. Never Liked You and We Don't Trust You. One of those, or maybe both of them, are top 5 albums in his discography. I don't think that's crazy to say. Never Liked You starts off with one of my favorite intros from him of all time. Never Stop is probably his best, but 7:12 PM is up there. And then proceeds to have many good tracks like Keep It Burnin', Puffin' on Zooties, Voodoo, Like Me, and the most popular song, Wait For You. All quality songs. We Don't Trust You also got a good list of songs too. Young Metro, Cinderella, Ice Attack, Like That. Both of these albums have a marquee song that'll be played for years on end too. We Still Don't Trust You was pretty but that's what Future does. Peaks like one of the best. Not always consistent, but at his best, he's one of the best rappers of recent memory, for sure. 8 out of 10.
Favorite rapper, Future, boy. Future, what's up, boy? Plug.
The next rapper I'm going to talk about has a collaboration album with Future that was very Young Thug, like Future, is very up and down. Like the variance on whether you're going to get a banger or not is all over the place. Slime Season 3 or Jeffrey is probably my favorite album from him. So Much Fun is really good as well. Slime Season 3 and Jeffrey are both short, but that isn't a problem when you don't have misses and got tracks like Memo Digits, Worth It, Wyclef Jean, and Harambe. Well, a lot of Thug fans like Harambe. That song's a little too much for me. I think the Slime Language albums really showcases his inconsistency the best. There are some really good songs on both of those albums, and then you'll just get to like a whole streak of straight booty cheeks. So Much Fun, in my opinion, is probably his most consistent album. I don't think his best songs are on there, but there's still a lot of good songs and not too many misses, or if there are any misses, they're not as bad. Notice how I haven't mentioned the Barter 6 yet, because honestly, I think it's overrated as fuck. There's some solid songs on there, but I don't really get the pull of it. But overall, his projects are very up and down, like Future, but a distant second to Future in the trap genre. And his feature game is very strong. I really like a lot of his features. Some of my favorite features are from him. I really wanted to mention that. But 6.5 out of 10. The next rapper I don't want to take too long on because I want to talk about the new rappers of this generation. Lil Baby has always been mid, in my opinion. I've listened to almost all of his albums and I never understood his pull, and he just sounds the same in all of his music. Now there's only one album I like from him. When My Turn first came out, I listened to this project, I was like, you know, this isn't that bad. But during the pandemic, I started listening to this album way more. I was like, hold on, this is kind of fire. Heating Up, banger. Living Off My Closet with Future, heat. Commercial with Lil Uzi, amazing, and I could keep going. At one point, I had 10 songs solely from this album on my main playlist. Mind you, I don't like any of his other music. Honestly, the rest of his music is trash. This was just a wild turn of events. I knew his popular songs, like to this day, his fans still bump his freestyle from 2017 like it's their anthem. Like, let it go, bruh. All of his other music is just straight forgettable. But after my turn, I thought I was gonna start coming around and start messing with his music. But his last two albums are straight dog shit. I did a brief listen on both of them when they came out, and I'm back where I was in the first place. But this time around, I don't think a lot of people like it, so always been pretty butt in my opinion for the most part. But to others, he just recently fell off. His last album, Wham, was the nail in the coffin. 3 out of 10. Now I'm going to talk about the new generation of rappers. I'm going to be talking about rappers who came up within the last 5 years, and all these rappers are under the age of 25. The opinions of these artists are going to be all over the map. No one really established themselves as someone who's going to be there for the long run and define this decade, or they can just end up being like Lil Baby and just vanish into oblivion. Comment down below who your favorite rappers that came up or are coming up right now, because I'm leaving a lot of people out. I'm only talking about 3 rappers, and I'm going to start with my first one.
We all want Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, but which one could turn you into Squirtle?
Carson is the first artist I'm going to speak about. You either rock with him, or you really, really don't like him. And honestly, he's one of my favorite artists that's come up recently, and I like all the artists on the Opium label. Him, Lonely, Homicide Gang. My first time listening to him was a few weeks after Project X came out, and I didn't really get the hype, and honestly, I still don't go back to that album to this day. Rock and Roll is his classic, but when X came out, woo! 22 Summer, that shit was on repeat! Intro, New, Nobody was my favorite song on that album. PDBMH, both freestyles, and Turn Up, all bangers. His lyrics aren't anything crazy, nobody's mistaking him with Shakespeare, but nobody's expecting Ken to write a love letter in any of these songs. But the production with those lyrics made it a way more enjoyable listen the second time around. And then he really started to take off after A Great Chaos dropped. All songs that everybody and their mom knows. Jennifer's Body, Sydney Sweeney, Hardcore, and there's too many to list. And then he drops Overseas a few months later, and that song is just magical. Him and Lonely have a bunch of solid features together, and my favorite feature from Ken of all time being Stunt with Homicide Gang. I don't know if he's someone that will stay in the mainstream or just fall out eventually, his hype will die down. His last album I like a decent amount, but those 2 albums I mentioned before, I like infinitely more. Overall, some fans of music don't like the abrasive, aggressive production he provides, and I really mess with it. An average rating of him would probably be a 4 or a 5, but me personally, I'm giving him a calm 9 out of 10. Next rapper I want to talk about is Yeet, a rival of Ken Carson to a degree, if you know about that. They have one track together on one of Yeet's albums. I really liked it, but that's probably the only track we'll see them on together ever. But hey, we're talking about Yeet here, and honestly, he's aight. One thing I'll give him is he does try to experiment with his sound. For example, his projects from 21 and 23, his Rise, are different than how he sounds today. He's always trying to give out something fresh and new, and that's not something many rappers do. He makes some noise while also being in the lab, like 2093 and Life are 2 different productions, and both of them were decent, had some solid songs. Life was shorter, way more consistent, but 2093 had some songs I really like Breathe, Stand On It, songs I listened to a decent amount. I'm not gonna kid myself, 2 Alive and 4L are his best albums, but if you set up to me, I wouldn't hate that take either. But none of his albums are great beginning to end, but his last 5 albums are all decent listens for sure, except Afterlife. That album was trash, and the worst part, he dragged that album so long too. So overall, he fell off a little bit, but he didn't have a hard fall off. It's not like his music is straight garbage. So 6 out of 10.
Also, they were smoking. One of them was vaping.
Last rapper I'm going to talk about is Lil Tekk, because he's dropped only good music for the last 3 years. I didn't really notice until recently how much he rebounded. I really liked Love You Tekk, which has the song that put him on the map, Ransom, but there's bangers littered all over that album. Side Note, Did It Again, and my favorite, Amigo. And then his next 2 albums were just very underwhelming. It had solid songs between the both of them, but a lot of songs that weren't good at all. Virgo World was just such a tease, because the first 2 songs were pretty good, and then it just became trash. And after Love You Tekk 2, I thought he was just going to eventually fall off, but his music evolved a lot, experimenting with different sounds and just flowing perfectly with his beat, and Tekk was a really good album. I was really caught off guard listening to this, feeding his fans with songs like Dead or Alive, Monday to Sunday, Want It Bad, and a song that put him back on the map, 500 Pounds. And since then, he dropped another 2 albums. Both were solid listens. Well, it's too early to tell for Dopamine, but the first listen was not too bad. I can't really ask much of him based on how much he rebounded. Consistently dropping solid music and has a hit every now and then, I think people should just give him a little bit more love. 7 out of 10. Now, a lot has happened with the artist I talked about in my first video, so I'll give you my opinions on their new music. Cardi finally dropped an album after teasing for 5 straight years, and that album was just Olympian is the best song on that album by far, and one bar does not ruin good credit. It's a good song. You guys are being ridiculous. But that was not 5 years waiting worthy. Kendrick dropped GNX. He added a solid album to his catalog. Definitely not his best, but has its bangers here and there. Luther, Peekaboo, Squabble Up. Oh yeah, and he dropped this song too. I'm not gonna lie, Eternal Take, the first one, grew on me a bit over the last year, and I go back to it and listen to some of the songs, and you know what? It's aged pretty solid. But this album, EA2, that shit is doo-doo. Drake dropped another album, and it sounds like every other album he's dropped in the last 5 years. And J. Cole is still J. Cole. And it looks like everybody hates Travis Scott too. And it's a new year, so we have another female rapper who's in this year's spotlight. I don't really have a strong opinion on Doechii, but people can't act like her being mainstream is the worst thing to mankind, when we had Sexy Red at her peak legit a year or two ago. Anxiety is not good for the ears, don't get me wrong, but you cannot tell me you're picking Ice Spice's scat fetish over her. Yeah, remember her? This track's all the way back to like 2018 with Cardi B, so comment down below if Doechii is still big in 2026. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I tried to cover as much as I could without making the video too long. If you haven't liked, subscribed, commented, please do. It helps the channel grow a lot. If I need to make a third part, please let me know if you guys want that kind of video out. And yeah, follow the Twitch. I'll have a new video coming out soon for sure. And yeah, stay safe.
Like and sub, cue the outro.